I am Pops, and yes, we're going to do Pathan. They say it both ways. I'm not sure what the appropriate way is to say it. Indian film from this year. So, didn't know, and it doesn't really matter to me too much that this is part of a massive interlocking spy action Hindi franchise. It feels significantly different than some other films that I've watched. So, we'll touch on that. And if you like sort of like just blow it up, action, shoot 'em up, sort of like Avengers, Mission Impossible, spy genre type stuff, this is the movie for you. It is very derivative of a lot of those things and feels, and we'll get right through it. So, I will say this movie has a massive amount of money and effects that are done better than other films. I will say that it also has just like a lot of like adrenaline and high octane, right? And the premise of the film is basically like there's like little pieces. Again, I don't totally understand why we need to have the time jumps and telling their stories and going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. I don't know why it adds so much depth to their story or why they feel like it does. I think if they could just figure out the time frame, tell a linear story, and just let's get to it. Instead, we have a lot of flash forwards and flashbacks. That's all. Basically, you have this a general who has a brain tumor. He's only got a couple years to live. It's in the middle of this major uh, social political change called Article 370 that has to do with status changes in the country. He basically hires Jim. I know, Jim. There's actually a line that kind of mocks the fact that his name is Jim. And he's basically Outfit X, this private terrorist organization. There's a transaction to get a weapon and some sort of major attack that's going to go down in the country. Now, we also have this sort of like covert group and a character called Rubai and the intelligence pick up where she is. And there's this character called Pathan. And he's, quote, still alive. And there's some sort of backstory. And we're going to kind of flush that out over the course of the film as they, quote, put this team together, right? And they've got all these special names for it. But basically, there's this character called Nandini, and she's basically the Amanda Waller, and she's put together the equivalent of a Suicide Squad, but with a whole bunch of characters that we know nothing about, could care less about. In fact, when Jim introduces his characters later on, doesn't really matter. None of it matters at all. Like it's a complete waste of screen time and conversation and words because it's just faceless entities where you have one male protagonist, one male antagonist. They're going to be thrust together like superheroes. You literally have scenes that are like just like Russo brothers scenes. If you know American films like uh, uh, Captain America: Winter Soldier, where they're fighting on top of the semi, they're fighting in the road. They're a fight scene that happens on a train. You have car chase scenes and all of this stuff, and it's like I said, there's this great moment where Pathan's like, he's like, I wanted to meet you. They call me Jim. He's like, Jim. Anyway, I will say this: I liked some of the motivations for both characters. Uh, they don't hold back, and I don't want to say they're graphic because they do cutaway, which is actually better, right? The gun is put right to the pregnant woman's belly, and you hear the gunfire, but you don't actually see the blood, and it makes it just you get why this dude is messed up. He's basically treated as like a runway model, a male model version of like Frank Grillo from the Marvel universe, right? It's that kind of stuff. Now, I don't know exactly how or why this franchise is got a lot more of sort of like modern filmmaking aesthetics as far as a lot of money was spent as far as the effects go. You feel like you're kind of in like a Born Identity Avengers film with a lot of they swipe the air for computer graphics. There's a lot of globe trotting in this film. They go to Spain at one point. There's stuff that's set in Russia. So a lot of that kind of stuff is happening. You have this crazy helicopter sequences and maneuvers through the air because Jim's basically trying to get this chemical weapon, this smallpox hybrid that is ridiculously more dangerous, but also like easy to contain because that makes sense. Yeah. Um, Again, flash forward, flashbacks, go to the black prison, mama boss, big boss, all this stuff just kind of keeps happening. And when he's betrayed by the hot girl, right? And he's on this prison train, and this movie makes this crazy turn for me because I was like, what is happening? So they're on this prison train, and you think he's close to being dying. Then suddenly, this dude shows up, and it's his nickname is Tiger, and it's Salman Khan. So Salman Khan is the star of this sort of spy genre. It's this sort of like it's called this YRF, this Yash Raj Films spy genre. There's a couple different films. I looked them up. I think the English translation is correct. So correct me if I'm wrong, chat comments. Once there was a tiger, Tiger is alive, and then War, and now Pathan, and there's going to be Tiger 3. Right. So there's this big fight scene. Um, okay, then we have another time jump, and that's how things play out. This was so strangely contrived, and we get a flashback to when Lady Boss kind of rolls over on Pathan, like when she's brought to Russia. She's basically allegedly like tapping on the desk, Tiger is coming. And you're like, okay, but he doesn't really have a point or a purpose. He's like, try to stay alive. I might need you someday. It's like, well, why don't if the world is a threat, there's a smallpox thing going on. Why don't you stay together and team up the rest of the way? Nope, Tiger just disappears. There's actually a credit scene where they're sitting what looks like on the train tracks from that scene, not somewhere else, like they're in a diner setting up Tiger 3. They're just there talking. Like it makes no sense whatsoever. This movie is very disconjointed in that way. Like it is literally just a popcorn movie to see guns blazing and crazy stuff happen. I think it's more like uh, uh, KGF instead of like RRR. It's more about flashiness. It's more about the charisma. It's a lot more about like a vanity project, right? So the actors look good doing it. Whereas like when they're tortured and stuff, and you just see them being bloodied, whereas in RR you see them like resisting, pushing back. It's like when Beam is being tortured, he's like, I'm going to stand, and I'm going to, him singing, him standing is the resistance, he's pushing back, that kind of thing. Here it's like you just know it's happening, it's awful, it's whatever, but a lot of it doesn't really resonate as much with me because the characters are basically like runway model superheroes who can just do these crazy things, and it's like, okay, there you go. So it just completely gets insane with as much stuff that they can throw against the wall as possible. There's a scene with like a jetpack where the dude has what looks like almost like a Hawkman set of wings jetpacks. Then there's like motorcycles in the snow. Like there's a Mission Impossible where they're on frozen ice. They're literally coming at each other on a motorcycle. And by the way, the hot girl falls like she has this moment like trust me, whatever, and it's like it's totally played up where you and the audience are like, yeah, trust her, dude, so I can look at her boobs. And it's like, just once more, trust me once more. It's like, hey, you know what? Just look at her boobs. Let's keep her around. When she falls into the ice and she's rescued, she doesn't even have a blanket or anything on. She's just walking in the wet white outfit she has on. And you're just like, I don't understand. But she's not dealing with any hypothermia. She has dealing with no side effects or any of that. In fact, she gets to kill one of the bad guys too. It in one point she's ice skating in that scene to grab this little orb that has the smallpox in it, but the smallpox was really not in it. The smallpox was actually in the lab the whole time. Uh, there are so many things that are just crazy in this movie, and it culminates with this fight scene between the two of them, and they're in this cabin, and the cabin is slowly falling off the cliff. Okay, and so they're there and they're talking, and Pathan says something, literally quotes John F. Kennedy, like about you shouldn't be worried about what your country can do for you. You need to worry about what you could do for your country. And then like takes his medal from him, like he doesn't deserve it. And then he can fall to his death. And a medal gets awarded to Nandini, who sacrifices herself to keep, because she and the other scientists keep the virus from going crazy or whatever. This movie was like fun. I mean, obviously, there's great stunts. Some of the special effects are great. The music is really pretty good. I like the score in a lot of ways. I think that's pretty great. The editing, all that. Lots of globetrotters. This felt very scale, very Born Identity, Mission Impossible, that kind of stuff. Um, they're also very kind of like almost like very self-aware though. Like there's a line about like cussing you at English or explaining it to you in Hindi, and I thought that was kind of an odd line to put in one of these movies. Pathan at some point, Pathan has like a man bun sometimes. Like, don't do that. Like that doesn't translate well over here. Don't do the man bun thing. Him having the long hair and being charismatic and cool, that all works. Let's see. Yeah, the tiger stuff didn't really work. It was just very strange and weird and stuff. It just seemed very forced in all of this. I didn't care for any of that. Like I said, so that's my take on it. Let me pull up just a little bit of this, have some perspective on it. Because I want to be fair, because I will say I like it. It's not like I'm not entertaining, but we need to be realistic with what we're seeing. So you can see there's a lot of scale. And this is that scene, the Winter Soldier basically scene where he shoots the missile and you have them just flipping cars over and whatever. And he's literally walking down the road with like the mask on and the whole ordeal right here. See? Like he looks like a Frank Grillo Winter Soldier, basically. So you can see the special effects of how well the graphics and stuff were done. Let's see. Yeah, just different location. Oh, lots of tech. There's a great scene where the hot girl has to get her he has to get fingerprints from this guy, this Russian guy. So she seduces him enough to have him put his hand on her leg. So she has this thing on her leg that captures the like a peel and stick and it captures the fingerprints, which I thought was clever. Not particularly believable that it would feel like flesh, doesn't feel like paper or something, but hey, listen, it's okay. We're going with it. Let me see if there's anything else here of note. Yeah, like just lots of torture scene. Oh, this is the tiger scene, I think. Yeah, just typical choreographed fighting superhero type stuff. Leaping, jumping, amazing shooting. Lots of this kind of stuff that you'd be into if that's what you're into. Hot girls when they show them. Yeah. So all of this is good stuff. And I will say she is portrayed in a very sexy manner compared to how a lot of the other Indian films do. She shows a lot of flesh. She's showing a lot there's no nudity per se, but it is definitely more sexy than other films are. This is the crazy airplane. I said helicopter, but that was the helicopter attacking. This is actually an airplane stunt on these rope things. It's just this ludicrous Mission Impossible type stuff. Fun, but silly. Oh, that was Man Bun. You can see his Man Bun right there. Yeah, he's got man run. And you can see how they really play up the guys and how they look. This is that fight scene, just them fighting at each other like constantly. Yeah, just totally playing it up and being part of the universe. And you can see that Avengers, Russo brother stuff. Here's a dance sequence. It didn't impact anything. So lots of guns, lots of bullets, lots of adrenaline, lots of toxic men doing toxic things. This is the cabin fight that I mentioned. So look, didn't hate it. Just an action movie. So if that's your thing, this could be for you. So there you go. That's my review of Pathan. Thanks, guys. Talk to you guys soon. I am Pops.